Okay, so here's what happened. There's a guy named Glenn Consor, right? Glenn Consor is his name. Okay, now Glenn is a broadcaster by trade, right? And do we have the sound, guys, of a couple of nights ago? Okay, so a couple nights ago, Glenn Consor, he's commenting on the game, and for people who don't know, like Glenn he's a New Yorker who actually kind of similar to my dad. He grew up in Queens. Then he went to Bayside High School. He played at Boston University. This is back in 1980. He finished up there. He played professionally in Israel, and he broke in as a broadcaster a long time ago. He's been with the Washington Wizards, formerly the Bullets, for 22 years. 22 years. So this guy is a lifer as a broadcaster. Okay? And 2 nights ago, the Houston Rockets went into Washington, took on the Wizards. Kevin Porter Jr. hit the game-winning shot. Here's the call.
What a well-designed play, and you got to give credit. Kevin Porter Jr., like his dad, pulled that trigger right at the right time. Boy, that one stung.
Okay, so pulled the trigger. Now, when you hear it, pull the triggers, basketball reference. There's no, and look, we've gotten super sensitive. Remember, the Washington was the Bullets. They changed from the Bullets because of the murder rate in D.C. Now they're the Wizards. It's like, okay. So for people who don't know, and in all candor, I knew that Kevin Porter Jr.'s dad was shot and killed in a bar fight. I didn't even know up until maybe this summer. I think it wasn't even maybe it was last year when he got cut from the Cavaliers, like that his dad had killed a 14-year-old girl in apparently accidentally pulled the trigger, but he spent 4 years in jail because of it. So LeBron James takes to Twitter, calls Glenn Consor out, and basically says there's no place in our game for it. Now, Glenn comes out and apologizes. Look, I had no idea. I just clearly didn't do the proper level of research because there was another Kevin Porter who actually played for the then Washington Bullets. And Glenn assumed he was his son. So LeBron had a chance to backtrack. This was his comment regarding sending the tweet.
I stand by my tweet and I stand by everything I said. So, okay, let's just say he thought that was the case. So we get scouting reports on players, and I know you guys from the media, y'all get memos and stuff from players and stuff before the game, right? Y'all get like packets and stuff when y'all come to the game and what's going on in the games, right? And I believe that I'm not a play-by-play person, analyst, but I believe that they do their due diligence as well, and they get their reports on teams that they're about to play, as long as their own team, right? So I was actually watching the game live last night when I heard it, and I waited. I didn't do it right away, as you've seen from my tweet. I was watching the game. So if that's the case, if I am a play-by-play announcer, right, and I'm covering a team in my local team. In his case, he's covering the Wizards. So he remembers the Kevin Porter who used to play for the Bullets, correct? The first thing I would have done, I would have said, oh, Kevin Porter Jr. is coming into town. Let me see if that's his son. I would have did that due diligence way before. And I think everyone on this call would have did the same thing. Tell me, am I wrong?
Okay, if I actually understand what LeBron's saying, but again, if that's what you're saying, then let me give you the opposite. Okay, the opposite is Glenn Consor was sitting on this reference to shooting a gun the entire game, only to use it at the very last moment in a way in which, man, look, if he meant to say it, it's awful. But why? What's the win in it? What possibly could be the win? Why would Glenn Consor possibly, when giving a guy credit for hitting a game-winning shot, you got to give me some. In terms of the packets that you get, here's the first thing. Glenn Consor is guilty of what a lot of guys are guilty of. He didn't do the work. Most guys, okay, who do these local games, it's a great gig. The hardest part about the gig is the travel and the time away from home. It's a great gig because you don't really need to prepare for one team because you call all their games. Right? You call all their games. So you have to prepare if you prepare for the other team. And yes, you get a packet. You get the notes. Your level of research is all how hard you're going to work. And for the most part, during games or getting ready for games, you're not talking about that other team. You're teaching people. If you're watching the Wizards game on the Wizards network, you're probably a Wizards fan. And so that's who you're informing them about. Glenn got caught being unprepared. What LeBron is saying is he was overprepared. He's overprepared. That he knew he had a packet, he knew the information, and even then he went out and made this remark. Like, come on, dude, just go. Hey, guy made a bad mistake. That sucked. This is why you got to prepare. He obviously didn't prepare. Do you get packets? Yes, you get notes. Would the notes have said, if you read them, that Kevin Porter is the son of the former Bullet Kevin Porter? Yes, it would have said that. No question in my mind. And I'm guessing Glenn Consor didn't read the notes. Because a lot of times what guys do is, the notes are fluff. I'm just going to look at the stats. And, oh, yeah, by the way, another thing that's happened, not just during the pandemic, but they don't send out you don't get the notes printed out for you anymore. It's always sent via email. It's a PDF. And most people they go to the stats and they keep the stats up, or they print out, or maybe he has a board. I don't know if he has a board. Glenn's been doing it long enough. This is what the old school guys do. They get one of those manila folders, and then they write everybody's name on a manila folder and ask a coach about him before the game. And they got like one note about him. That's what kind of the classic old broadcasters do. Here's a guy who's been doing this for 20 years. Okay. Here's the power of LeBron. All he has to say is, at the moment I assumed the worst, but after thinking about it, after understanding it, I'm judging somebody's intent. And that's like, again, what he's doing is what LeBron and others have accused others of doing. You're judging somebody's intent and always making it to the negative. That's disgraceful. You're LeBron James. Don't lip to fans that you're beating up on the half their normal talent Sacramento Kings. I'm the king. If you're the king, then this is how you rule, then I want out of this universe. You don't treat people this way. You don't. You're way too powerful saying things you don't know anything about. By the way, he doesn't really know about what it's like to prepare as analysts, as he said. I know you guys get notes or packets or whatever. Like, yeah, you get some stuff, but for the most part, it's on you. Okay? And if LeBron wants to do it, let's go through every different local analyst. Guys that are friends of LeBron calling games and mistakes they've made, call them out. You didn't. You know why? Because you wouldn't do that. You don't do that to people. My guess is, and I have no idea about the length of his contract, but a lot of these deals for broadcasters are year to year, right? And it's not huge money, it's good money for you and me, but for the world of broadcasting, like, it's not crazy money. What it is, though, okay? What it is it's a guy who's going to take away 82 nights of the year to cover a team. And if you take that job, it's really hard to get other jobs. This is what you do. This is all he's done. And he's done games for Westwood One. He's done games for local stuff or whatever. But for the most part, this is his main source of income. And now if you're the Wizards, like, you're in a bad spot. Like, you're going to rehire a guy that LeBron James basically called an insensitive and led it to believe like it's racial. And by the way, I don't actually think this is the case. Let me rephrase. I'd like to think this is not the case. But if it was a former player that LeBron knew and he made the same mistake, would he call him out? Of course not. Like, you're LeBron James. And I've said this about Aaron Rodgers in terms of the vaccine. And if Aaron Rodgers wants to talk to Dr. Fauci, it's one text away. Text your agent or any of the million people. He could text me. I'll find it for you. Because Aaron Rodgers can get Dr. Fauci's number. LeBron James can get Glenn Consor's number. In one text, he can get it. And before he fires off a tweet, which tries to fire this dude and make him out to be the worst human being on earth, right? Like, let's at the very best moment of a kid's career. And let's also be honest. Kevin Porter Jr., kind of a jerk, kind of a troubled dude. Okay. That's just the reality of it. I'm not making it up. There's a reason he got suspended at USC. There's a reason they got run from Cleveland, and a reason he's just coming off. That game was the first game off suspension in Houston. That guy, and I'm sure some of it comes from the fact his dad was murdered. Okay. Right. Like, he didn't call that out. He didn't put that on into a broadcast. He didn't go like, hey, if he really wanted to poke holes in the Kevin Porter and make him out to see a bad guy, when Kevin Porter isn't throwing things at assistant coaches, right? That's what's alleged to have happened. John Lucas, who's as revered a person for everything he's done for himself and for other NBA players to get their minds and their lives right. That's the guy that Kevin Porter Jr. just went after and threw something at in the locker room. Right? He's one of the most revered human beings to work in NBA circles. John Lucas. Don't believe me? Ask anybody who knows anything about NBA basketball. And that's the guy that Kevin Porter Jr. had beef with. KPJ's, he's got a little troubled dude, right? He's got some obvious anger issues and some issues with trying to get along with people. It's not a talent thing. The guy's as talented as almost any guard in the league. So instead, if Glenn Consor was really a jerk, he would have gone like, hey, it's better when he's not throwing things at assistant coaches or something like that. But if I'm judging intent the way that LeBron judges intent, I could sit here and go like, well, LeBron wouldn't say that if it was any of his friends. Would LeBron say that if it was somebody who was of color making a remark? I don't know if any of this is true. You know why? Because I'm judging the intent of somebody who I don't know. Same thing as LeBron James. Totally unfair. Totally unjust. And if you're the king, this is not the way you rule a kingdom. But he's got a bunch of yes guys around him. Oh, yes, LeBron. Okay. Yeah. You're not the problem. Glenn Consor's the problem. You're not the problem. Russ is the problem. You're not the problem. Kyrie's the problem. You're not the problem. It's the coach. It's everybody else. By the way, if we're owning the Russell Westbrook problem, LeBron James wear it. Right? Go and look. Okay, plenty of reports that he basically interviewed 3 candidates to be a star to bring in. And they selected Russell Westbrook. They brought in DeMar DeRozan. They selected Russell Westbrook. LeBron doesn't wear anything. He doesn't wear any of his flaws. That's the problem we all have with him. That's the problem we have with the Nick Wright sycophant. He can do no wrong thing. I'm okay mentioning all the great things he's done. Just mention all the crappy things he's done. That's how it's supposed to be. Right? That's the reality to it. That actually, by the way, that was the Jordan documentary where Michael Jordan's like, yeah, I could be really hard to play with. I could be a jerk. I wasn't easy on people. I was a jerk to this guy, to that guy, but I did it because of one. At least he was giving us something. LeBron gives us nothing. All you got to do is go, hey, I can only hope that Glenn will prep for his game a little bit stronger next time. That'd be a fair thing. Okay, it's not nice to say, to point out a guy clearly didn't prepare, but the end there, that's fine. But to double down on your tweet, just go like, but I'm reasonable here. I'm sure he didn't mean to say something. It's a sensitive thing because it's the guy's dad and it's a tragic situation and he didn't know about it, but now that he knows about it, I think, prep a little bit more next time. I think it's disgraceful what LeBron is using his power to do and unwilling. The most, what was it, Schindler's List? Jay Stu, have you seen Schindler's List? Do you remember the movie?
Of course, yep.
Do you remember the was it I Pardon You? Wasn't that the deal? Wasn't that the line where he Schindler's the general, right? And he like the most powerful thing a leader can do is to pardon people.
I pardon you. Yes,
I pardon you. If LeBron does that, he wins today. Instead, LeBron is never ever willing to say, you know what, I was wrong. I was wrong. My bad. I jumped to a conclusion. I was really defensive of a super talented kid, and I just wanted to get his game right or his mind right or his life right or whatever. I'm sorry, and I'm going to give Glenn Consor a pass. But he's not. And all of these things he accuses other people of being is what he is. An unjust ruler of his own little fiefdom.